Garmin Stone Cold Fishing with Steve Pennaz and Danny Thompson starts right now.
Guys, welcome to Garmin Stone Cold Fishing. I'm Steve Pennaz, and that other good-looking guy on my right now is Chad. Danny Thompson is coming back, I think, from Saskatchewan, and if he got caught in that blizzard that hit Montana today, I don't know if he's going to get home next week, Chad. So we'll see what happens with Danny.
Hey, there's enough weight in the back of the truck. The guy has killed like 6 bucks in 6 states and a few provinces, you know, in the last week or so. So
yeah, he's had a season for epic people. Hey,
I can't wait to hear about it.
Hey, welcome to Garmin Stone Cold Fishing. We're going to do six episodes over the next Sundays, every night, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. The good news is somebody who's watching this show is going to end this season with a Garmin LiveScope Plus ice fishing system and get this with the lithium battery. So that should be cool. But we also got some other great prizes. Before we start tonight, we've got some great guests coming on board. We're going to cover a lot of different things. 2 things. One, Min Fish, the group that's really been giving anglers a voice in Minnesota, is having the world's greatest ice fishing auction. It's up now. It's got over 60 items. We're talking everything from wheelhouses from Ice Castle to Garmin LiveScopes to fishing trips with guys like Tony Roach right here, Brian Brosdahl, a ton of other guys. And if you're looking for ice fishing gear ahead of the season, go to min-fish.com and click on the red auction button and check it out. There's over 60 items, and I'm telling you, some very, very exciting things. The other thing is I want to mention, I'm as excited as anybody about getting started for ice fishing this season, but let's put safety first, everybody. I've been through the ice 3 times over the years, twice late season, early, super shallow water. But we did a video one time for Freybill where I went through over my head. It is super scary. So make sure you got those spikes ready. Bring a length of rope and bring a friend with for this open season. So good thing. So, hey, Chad, talk a little bit about the prizes we're going to give away tonight.
Oh, man, tonight we're giving away a couple of great prizes. You mentioned the LiveScope at the end of the season, and we're going to, but you'll qualify each and every week. We're going to qualify 3 names each show. So, and how do you get qualified? Good question. If you like the show, share the show or comment, and the comments are already starting to roll in, Steve. I think we're closing in on 20 comments already, and we just got on the air. So,
awesome.
great. So, yep. So the more you participate in the show, the more opportunities you're going to have to get selected. We'll take 3 qualifiers from each show for that LiveScope. Now, we're also going to give away a Razr auger next week, but we're going to qualify a couple of people tonight for that and a couple of people next week for that award. So Razr auger, fantastic. That's the ultralight series, right, Steve? Tell me again what exactly. There it is. Yeah. And so we'll qualify 2 people for that tonight, and we'll give that away next week. And then, Steve, tell us about this week's packages, starting with that Berkley tackle pack. And I know you've got experience with some of these baits here. They're all new baits from Berkley.
Yeah, I'm telling you what, the new Jack comes out. If you like ripping baits for walleyes, and it's a great bait for both open water and ice. It's a brand new bait that's out there. We're giving away a tackle pack every week. There'll be a Jack in there. The other thing is that finisher. If you haven't fished a finisher, both open water and ice, it's dynamite. And then that power switch, I'm telling you, that power switch has been my go-to bait out here in Montana the last winter. We're catching literally hundreds of trout on this bait. It's a dynamite fish bait and all that. But we're going to give away a Berkley tackle pack. And then we've got a pair of high-performance Fish Monkey socks that everybody will qualify for to win tonight. We're going to give away a pair of Yeti heavyweight. If you haven't worn these things, you're going to love them. Make great Christmas gifts as well. Hey, we've got a number of great guests coming on tonight. We've got a big walleye specialist, Donnie Obert's coming in from Obert Angling Adventures. We've got Tommy Kimos, Garmin Pro and panfish fanatic. He's going to be on board tonight. Joe Henry with Lake of the Woods is stopping by. Terry Wickstrom, a phenomenal outdoor writer and personality out of Denver. He has a radio show, Terry Wickstrom Outdoors. He's coming on board. And then from WHAM, Women Anglers of Minnesota, Liz Colston's coming on board. She's a doctor. We're going to talk a little bit about the physiological thing about keeping warm, but we're also just going to talk about women and ice fishing. It's a very growing group of anglers, and it's pretty kind of fun on that. So, Chad, we've got, oh my gosh, comments are rolling in, everybody. It's awesome to see that. So thank you on that. Hey, our first guest tonight is Donnie Obert. He owns Obert Angling Adventures. And Donnie, you've been guiding on the border waters, particularly Rainy Lake over the years, but you're kind of expanding this year. Talk a little bit about your what you've been doing the last couple of years with your business in terms of fishing.
Well, open water is the same as it always has been. As far as ice fishing goes, a couple of years ago, we bought a couple Sherps, and we really are kind of trying to specialize in getting away from the crowds and specifically targeting big fish. We don't so much care about filling up buckets. We're after the fish of your lifetime.
So talk a little bit about your approach, and we touched base a little bit before we went on air, but I wanted to find out, when you're targeting giant walleyes versus numbers of fish, how do you approach them differently? What are the baits you're using? Maybe what type of structure are you fishing that might differ from maybe filling the lunch pail with smaller fish?
Sure. So what we found over the years is big fish are really, really, really susceptible to pressure. One of the first thing we do is get away from the crowds. And when I say we get away from the crowds, I don't mean 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 yards. I mean, we're miles and miles away from other fishermen. And having the Sherp machines is what allows us to do that. We can go safely an awful long ways and stay comfortable and warm and keep our customers safe. The next step that we do is we try not to overfish any spot. Any particular reef or reef edge that we set up on or inside turn is going to have one house and two people fishing it at the most. So I think people underestimate how much noise machines make and people make all winter long. I think it makes a huge, huge difference.
In terms of lures or baits, are you fishing live bait? Are you finding you're getting bigger fish on artificials? What are you using?
So last year we were able to fish in Canada and the US quite a bit. And so going into Canada, we can't have live bait. A lot of our fish are coming on, standard spoons, with a minnow head. We very, very rarely actually have live bait. We haven't found it to outperform. Just using a minnow head on a spoon is typically our best bet.
So what are some of your favorite spoons?
I've been a big fan of Northland's glass buckshot for a couple of years since that's been out. And then last year I got to fish some prototypes of a thumper spoon they have coming out, which is a really thin metal that has an incredibly slow fall, a rip it and just, and man, that seems to trigger fish from quite a distance. One of the things we do is we put a live scope in every shack. So every client of ours is looking at a live scope. And, one of the things we noticed about big fish is they commit from a long ways away. It's, if you look at your cone angle on a traditional flasher versus, what you can see on a scope. A lot of times, so we call it like leading a wide receiver, so you can see that fish coming from so far away. You start your interaction, it's just such a more natural predator and prey where that bait is trying to escape. It's not waiting until the fish is right underneath it and then moving. So once you play around with it, you understand a little bit better and going up for high flyers. A lot of the really big fish we catch are 15, 20 feet up in the water column. And, being able to see that coming across your scope screen and telling your customers, hey, get up in front of that fish. Fish, they want to feed up. So that's probably the 3-4 things that we do very consistently that has produced results.
Couple things on that. One of the things I noticed fishing on the flats on Mille Lacs a lot is a lot of times those fish that are at 10 or 15 feet down in 25, 30 feet of water are often those 27, 28, 29-inch walleyes. And that's true open water and winter, and LiveScope helps open those up. But the other thing that you brought up is that cone angle. You know, we're so used to this tight cone angles from a lot of the flasher units we've been using for years. But when you've got 25 feet down at the bottom and you see these fish responding, you find out how often you're actually getting rejected. And I think a key to getting more fish is to get those fish that are 10, 12 feet away under the hole. And I've found myself changing colors and changing baits a lot more often because it's not that I wasn't getting bit. It was those fish that were on the edge of the cone angle weren't committing. And you're running into the same sort of thing, I guess. Sure.
Yeah. The ability to start the interaction with that fish 20 to 30 feet out is I think a lot of times what closes that fish on biting. Whereas in a traditional cone angle, everything you do is reactionary, right? So if you've watched the scope long enough, you realize how far away, even in stained water, how far away fish can see your bait, right? So if you've got a tiny cone angle, like on a traditional flasher, by the time you see that fish, it's already on. Anything you do is reactionary. So bait fish don't just wait around to get eaten, right? They're like, I'm out of here. So the further away from your presentation that you can start that interaction with a particular fish, I just think the better odds of that fish coming up like a surface to air missile and crushing it.
So go a little specific in terms of what line test are you using when you're targeting trophy fish? Are you using mono? Are you using braid? Are you using fluoro? What are you using in terms of line?
If I'm fishing inside, I really just pretty much stick with 10-pound braid, 3-4 foot fluorocarbon leader. If I'm going to be outside at all, it's mono, and that's it. Braid is a disaster outside, especially when you live this far north. It's always below freezing. So anything outside is mono. Any rods that are going to be used inside portables or hard-sided aluminum houses, those will all be braid rods. Yep.
Talk a little bit about color. I know on Lake of the Woods, gold is one of these things, and pink can be just dynamite. But talk a little bit specifically about Rainy Lake. It's a very similar lake in terms of watercolor and clarity. A little clearer, but you've got that tannic stain. But talk a little bit about the colors that you're using most successfully on the waters you're fishing.
Yeah, I would say gold is pretty hands down my personal favorite. I know a couple guys do real well on silvers. I do like a blue. If you can get like a silver blue combination, those work well. And then reds, reds at sun up and sundown, and golds the rest of the day seem to produce very consistently. One other thing I would like to mention, and this is a habit that we try to break on customers, is if you're targeting big fish, limit your number of lines. I can't tell you how many times we'll drop people off, go drop next people off, come back and check, and these guys have 2-3 lines in such a small area, and it's not a natural presentation where I've actually done better just one line, even though we're allowed 2, just one line, and that gives that fish a sole focus. For so long, for so many years, we went to Lake of the Woods, and your mindset was get as many lines down as possible, and that actually it looks so unnatural to a predator that for some reason we found. So when my partner Joe and I scout, we fish out of the shirt, right? So I've dropped 2 customers, and and now I'm going to go fish a reef that we don't have a shack on, and one line, and more often than not, one line produces better than 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines out of line space.
Wow. One last question before we go. What depths are you typically targeting early season in terms of walleyes?
Early season. Well, early season for us is after Christmas because it's a flowage. So early season, I'll be on red with everybody else, and then Lake of the Woods. So once I come to Rainy, those fish are either reefed up or right on the edges of reefs where the reefs turn into mud. That transition. So we're looking at 25 to 28, 29 feet of water.
Amazing. Hey, if somebody wants to book a trip with you, how do they get a hold of you?
Probably the best way is just to shoot me a message on Facebook. Follow me on Facebook and send me a message. You can follow Rainy Lake Remote on Facebook as well. Those are probably the two best ways, or the ways you'll get a fastest response from me.
And is this the correct email for you, or website, obertadventures.com?
Obert's Angling Adventures at yahoo.com.
At yahoo.com. But you got a website as well, right? Yeah.
No website. No website.
Really? Wow.
No, I'm booked a year out without one.
That means you're putting big walleyes in the boat. Hey, thank you so much. Have a great Thanksgiving this week, and congrats. By the way, this guy got a giant buck this year up by Black Duck or somewhere up there. So congratulations on that. Well, hey, Donnie, thanks. All right, we'll talk to you later.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Wow, great information. You know, trophy walleyes are a different animal, and I know some guys, especially on Green Bay, that go without electronics because these fish get pressured, and here he's really talking about getting in the middle of nowhere. But going to a single line or one or two lines, in reality, that really kind of makes sense. I think it's
absolutely.
It's pretty,
I agree.
Pretty wild. Hey, our next guest is one of the premier walleye anglers on the walleye circuit, but I think if you really talk to him, he's passionate about two other things. One is the Packers, who won today, and secondly, he loves fishing early season panfish through the ice. Tommy Kimos, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me on again, guys. Before we were talking about how many years this has been going on, and I honestly couldn't come up with an answer, but I will tell you that I have a pretty cool milestone coming up with Garmin, actually, and 2025 will be my 10th season fishing with them. So as you can attest, it's been a pretty fun ride to be along with them to see all this great new technology that they've given us to chase them down with,
It really is amazing. I'll never forget taking Panoptics on the ice. And as much as I love Garmin LiveScope, I actually think there's times when I'll go with the Panoptics, but I will never forget the first day on the ice with Panoptics. It was like the first time I ever fished a flasher, 40 years ago with Dave Gens, where it was like, oh, the light bulb went off, and it really helps you become a better angler in terms of seeing fish response. And like Donnie Obert was just saying, I know you probably heard him, watching these fish at 20, 25 feet out from the hole, whereas before you used to always base your decisions on what was in the cone angle right underneath your hole. But hey, I want to talk a little bit about strategies that you use for finding early season panfish. We're talking crappie, we're talking bluegills, but really, what are some of your strategies in terms of finding fish at first ice?
Well, one of the things is that we're still in open water here, so you're always limited those first couple places that lock up. So I'm going to start off obviously looking at those shallower ditches, shallow bays, and in the past it was a trial and error deal, because you never know from year to year if the fish are going to move in and use those places, and sometimes there really isn't a rhyme or reason. It could be something as simple as the water level going up or down 6 inches, and one of the lakes that I like to fish right here, there's a little feeder creek that comes in that's actually dry right now. And I've noticed in years past when that happens that the fishing's actually better when it's dry than when it's running, because that water coming in makes it a lot colder than if it doesn't run in. But anyways, Again, with any of these shallow, I always start off shallow. In Wisconsin, we have some really great fertile shallow water bites. I love long rod fishing. If it was up to me, I would fish like under 5 foot all winter long. But
Really?
a couple of the key things that I'm looking for, and now with LiveScope, you've heard me talk a bunch about how I use the perspective mode, especially in the real shallow water. Is I'm going to look for not only weeds, whether it's like sandgrass. A lot of times in the shallows, all you're going to have are little sandgrass patches. But I'm also going to look for pockets in the weeds. I think we've shown some photos in the past, but that perspective mode is unique because I can set that thing at 60 to 100 foot out, and I can see a whole area of weed pockets and travel corridors that bluegills and crappies and perch are going to use. For example, like Lake Winnebago, the perch move real shallow early ice, and a lot of times, as long as the bait stays shallow, if there's a lot of trout perch, last year we had a ton of trout perch staying shallow. Those fish will shallow. Now that goes back to what am I looking for in that situation? I was using perspective mode to actually see those clouds of bait, and that would key me into hold in those, or not hold in the areas, but just know that I may not see perch, but they're coming, So a lot of times in the shallow water deal, those perch will move in right away in the morning, and they'll feed real heavily up until about midday, and then it's all over with. And then that's when I'll switch to bluegills and crappies. They seem to bite better in the afternoon.
Let's talk a little bit about perspective mode. So if you're not familiar with perspective mode, what it does is it takes the transducer that was facing, you're looking at a slice from surface to bottom, and you're turning it sideways. So now you've got a 180-degree cone angle out in front of you, and it works up to about 11, 12 feet of water. I haven't found it to be very effective any deeper than that, but in that 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 foot range, it's incredible. The funny thing is, the first time I used perspective mode, I said, there's no way there can be that many fish in there, because I had literally hundreds of fish in front of me. And then it was an open water season. I actually ran up there and there was clouds of these bait there. But Tommy, one of the things that's really been working well for me, and if you guys are looking to get on a hot panfish bite all year, is early in the season, I go out on when the ice is still relatively thin and I can drill holes and move around a lot. I look for these small pods of grass, the size of a kitchen table or maybe the size of your bathroom. And it's just this isolated patch of grass in the middle of nowhere. And I got to show you some pictures, Tommy, because when you get on these things, they stop these huge schools of panfish coming by. And these are literally an example of what you can find when you're getting on the right spots. And that's an early season thing, but those places will hold fish all season long.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a food chain deal also. I mean, they're not at the top of the food chain. So they not only will use those areas as ambush points, but they're also looking for something to use as cover from whatever other critter is going to come swimming in there. Yep. So, every great bluegill bite includes some giant northerns and muskies swimming around, not too far away. So, that's a piece of it also. But yeah, no. And the other thing is those areas will hold all kinds of different forage for them as well. Sorry about that. I got some dog issues going on here, but you've seen it, on the underwater camera, all the different critters that are crawling around in those sand patches, and the biggest bluegills in the lake will find stuff to eat, to run around and eat in those sandgrass patches as well. But having the ability to find that stuff quickly with perspective mode is so crucial though.
let's talk a little bit about the baits you're using. Are you a fan of lead jigs? Are you a fan of the tungsten type stuff? What are you starting with early in the season? What size? What colors? And what are you using for live bait, if anything?
Typically, every system is a little bit different by us. A lot of the places that I fish, we have fairly colored water. So those fish will eat a little bit larger profile bait. That's kind of one of the fun things about that early bite is that those fish have the feed bag on. So I'm going to go with a bladed spoon, not so much like a spoon of the treble hook, but a spoon with like a number 10 spoon with a wax worm on it, and just shaking the heck out of it. You're in that shallower water. You do need to have something, because you're not drawing the fish up, you're drawing them from the side. So you need something that's going to have some flash and some vibration to pull them in. Some of the clear lakes, though, you really can't beat a plastic. And one of the little tricks that I like to use, because I'm such a believer in that power bait scent, is I'll actually take a razor blade and cut the tentacles of the power tubes off, and I'll use those.
Really?
Yeah. Berkeley has a bunch of great different patterns and whatnot. But I really like that stealthy, just that little tentacle down there on the jig. A lot of times is all that it takes to get those fish to bite.
That my favorite power bait shape is that mayfly, and if you run that on a horizontal jig, especially a tungsten jig, it glides, and it really does extremely well on that. Hey, Tommy, we're running out of time. Great information. We're going to have you on in a couple of weeks. I want to talk about I forget what we're going to talk about, but I'm looking forward to having you on. But congrats on your big win today. Get a buck down this week, because I'm going to check in with you on that. So. But thank you, and you guys, everybody, if you're a big fan of pro walleye fishing, watch Tommy on the Next Bite TV show. I know you're taping Illinois River or something coming up. So good luck on that.
Heading down to catch saugers tomorrow.
Oh, yeah?
Take the dog out for a potty break.
Yeah, that thing's going out. So that's why I don't have any deer around here right now. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks again. Have a great night.
Good
Yes,
guy.
so knowledgeable. It's so fun to talk. I mean, he's just an amazing talent. So, hey, are you picking some? I see we got almost 200 comments going already, and have you been qualifying some people for that Garmin LiveScope and some
Well,
other stuff?
Right now I'm still in keep track of all the names mode, and then who's commenting more. The more you get involved, the more chances you're going to be in the hopper there. But we'll get them picked.
I have a comment. I have a comment for you. Post more of the comments up here. I want to see more of them, especially if there's some questions for our guests. So throw them up there.
Yep.
Hey, I want to bring our next guest in. Joe Henry is with Lake of the Woods Tourism, and he's the newest board member, one of the newest board members for Min Fish. And Joe, good to see you. How are you?
Doing good, guys. How are you guys doing?
Super.
We're doing well. I mean, we've got ice out here already. Some of the mountain lakes are frozen. I drove by one of my favorite ice fishing lakes today, and if there weren't so many snow geese on it, I think it'd be frozen. But it'll be kind of fun. Hey, Joe, I want to talk to you about Lake of the Woods. Obviously, phenomenal destination. But before we start, I want to talk about the Keep It Clean law that was just passed this past year. And you've been pushing for this, and I know that a lot of people have been pushing for this. Take us through what the Keep It Clean law really has. What's it intended to do, and why is it so important for ice anglers?
Yeah, no, thanks. I appreciate the opportunity. So we got involved with Keep It Clean up at Lake of the Woods about 12 years ago, and I'll tell you how it all started. We have a group called Friends of Zipple Bay State Park, and by the way, we had some ice on Zipple Bay this week too, so we're excited.
All right.
not ready yet. Don't worry. No half tons.
Not
No
yet, not yet.
wheels. It'll come now. But I'll look at the next question, or 1,000 questions, I should say. But keep it clean. About 12 years ago, the Friends of Zippel Bay State Park always do a beach cleanup. And, they went out and cleaned the beach up. And it just so happens when the ice went out, the wind was rolling in the right direction. And they had like 5 trailer loads full of garbage. And some of the folks just said, man, this is one small area of Lake of the Woods. This is what floated and blew in. What about the stuff that sank? And we knew we had to do something. So we pulled together a group of stakeholders and everything from, Lake of the Woods tourism to DNR fisheries, DNR conservation, Lake of the Woods soil and water conservation, Lake of the Woods county, sheriff's department, I think, is involved. I mean, it gives an idea of the mix of people and a really good cross cut of people. And we came together and the purpose of Keep It Clean is to promote and to enforce keeping our body of water clean. Well, fast forward now, 12 years later, we've had other areas from around Minnesota say, hey, we want to do the same thing. We see the need for this. How can we get involved? Can we just join you, or do we need to start our own? And we said, this isn't something we want to keep a secret. Let's just let everybody join us. And all we say is to join Keep It Clean. If you're an area, if you're a lake association, if you're a tourism bureau, if you have any kind of a group that represents a body of water, all you have to do is just fill the agreement out, just a signature. And all that signature says is that you're not going to mess around with the logo and you're not going to put out your own messaging. We had to be a little careful because we're talking about human waste and some of the messaging was getting a little uncouth. We want to keep things professional, But anyway, the new law. So all these groups came together across Minnesota now. We probably have over 1,200 lakes represented. And we pushed for this new law. The new law says it is now illegal in the state of Minnesota to place any kind of garbage or waste on the ice. That means that you have to keep your garbage in a trash receptacle with a cover on it. You got to keep it in your vehicle, or you got to keep it in your fish house. Now, some people might say, well, isn't that a lie? Anyway, isn't that common sense? Here's a kicker. The kicker is that I think there's a lot of good meaning people out there that are leaving waste behind. If you're going to stay in a sleeper fish house for a few nights, hey, let's just take our garbage bags and all that, set them outside the fish house. It'll be fine. We'll take them with us in a few days, right? Well, a lot of things happen. Those bags freeze in. You get snow events. You get 50-mile-an-hour winds. You get ravens ripping bags open. You leave and it's dark out. You accidentally forget a bag. I mean, good meaning people are leaving a lot of waste behind. So we believe just by happenstance, Steve, that because you can't put any kind of garbage or waste on the ice to begin with, it's not going to end up there. We're going to literally believe we're going to eliminate tons of garbage from our waterways. So we're hoping that, we do in Minnesota now, it's a law. And it gives the DNR conservation officers something to enforce. But we're hoping that this spreads throughout other ice belt states as well.
It just makes sense. I mean, if you're in a warm fish house and you take some garbage and throw it out on the ice, it's going to freeze to the ice. And so here's a way it's going to make it easier to clean up and all that. So, hey, just guys, the new law, it was passed this past year, is make sure you throw the garbage, either keep it in your fish house or throw it in your vehicle and take it with you when you leave the ice. I think it's phenomenal. Hey, Joe, you already got ice up there. How thick is it? Can we take a wheelhouse out yet? Now, I mean, talk to me a little bit. I know it's starting. I really think we're going to have a great ice fishing season. So if somebody wants to come up to the Lake of the Woods, and if you've never been there before, how do you book a trip? And talk to me of the little difference between fishing the main basin on the south end of the lake and maybe going up to some of the resorts up in the northwest angle. What's the difference in fishing experiences
100%.
Between the two?
Yep. No, and I'll tell you, one of the things I want to get across is very important to me is that, if you're a hardcore ice angler, yeah, you can come to Lake of the Woods and you can bring a snowmobile and get off the main track. You can bring your own vehicle and drive out on an ice road and fish on your own, or you can fish here at the resort. That's great. But more importantly, if you don't ice fish very much, if you're looking to get into ice fishing or take your family ice fishing who doesn't ice fish very much, maybe you don't have the equipment, maybe you don't have the know-how, maybe the Lake of the Woods is so big that it's intimidating. One of the coolest things is that you can hook up with one of our full-service resort or outfitters, and there's a lot of them up there. You can hook up with them, and all you literally have to do is get to their location, get to their resort or place where they do business. And you know what? They're going to take care of the rest. Either they're going to bring you out in ice transportation to a heated fish house on the ice, on the fish, or they're going to plow an ice road so you can drive yourself there and come and go as you please. Early ice, they have light ice equipment, specialized light ice equipment, so they will transport everybody so that there's no worries. And then what happens, Steve, is as the season goes on, I mean, we're going to end up usually the end of, and Mother Nature's always in control. Mother Nature's always in control, but I'll give you some norms. By the end of November, we're doing some spearing for big pike in the back bays. We got some outfitters that do that. Then as the season goes on, we got these ice guides that are out there on early ice, finding out where the best ice is, staking trails, and they're even cleaning those trails of snow so that that cold weather can penetrate that ice, making it thicker, quicker. So first thing will happen is they'll be, hey, they're staking trails out. You can get out to 22 feet of water with an ATV or snowmobile or side-by-side, pulling a collapsible. And then right around December 10th, day houses will be out, and that's where they use the light ice rigs to bring you out. Usually around Christmas is when the ice roads start opening up to SUV traffic and some wheelhouse action. That's also when they usually put the sleeper fish houses out. And then as the season progresses, based on how really, really cold it gets, sub-zero stuff that makes that ice thick, that's when they're going to be putting on the quarter tons, half ton pickups, 3/4 tons, pulling a certain size.
What you're telling me, Joe, is ice season's only a few weeks away on Lake of the Woods right now. What Mother Nature allowing, we're talking soon. So if somebody wants to look at the resort options, is there a website that's the easy one to go to kind of peruse what's available?
100%. You know what? Our website for Lake of the Woods Tourism has all the resorts, all the info you need, and that is, it's on the screen, Lake of the Woods, MN for Minnesota, lakeofthewoodsmn.com. Everything you need is there.
You know what? Chad Cool is an amazing producer. I mean, I didn't even know he had that thing made up. That's pretty impressive. Hey, one quick comment. Minfish has the world's greatest fishing auction, and I know Lake of the Woods is well represented with a lot of different trips, but did you know that we've exceeded 60 bid items right now, including an Ice Castle Fish House and a Garmin LiveScope? So go to min-fish.com and click on that red auction button as soon as the show's over, and then check it out. But hey, Joe, thank you for your time tonight. I hope to see you on Lake of the Woods this winter. I know I live a long way away, but thank you for everything you're doing to promote just a phenomenal
Steve
body
and Chad, you guys know you're always welcome, and we're going to have one heck of an ice fishing year across the entire ice belt. Anywhere you go, we're going to have a great year this year.
I think it's going to be phenomenal. So, hey, thanks. We'll have a great Thanksgiving this week, and we'll touch base again. That's Joe Henry, everybody. Joe, by the way, I had him on Lake Commandos a couple of years ago, and he had the audacity to beat me. So he, believe it or not, he used to guide on Lake Erie and is a walleye pro. You've never beat me on Lake Commando. So, hey, I want to bring in right now. Yeah. I want to bring in right now a great friend he's now out of Denver, Colorado. And look at, he's even professionally outfitted here. Terry Wickstrom. A lot of you fans of In Fisherman will recognize his name. He's been a longtime contributor for Lake of the Woods, or for In Fisherman. And he's got a radio show out of Denver called Terry Wickstrom Outdoors. Terry, welcome to Garmin Stone Cold Fishing.
Hey, great to be here. And, when I come on with, an idol like you, I have to be professional. Is that what you said to say, right? Isn't that what you said to say?
This is already starting poorly. Hey, you grew up and really lived ice fishing when it went from jiggle sticks to really what it is today. Talk about, what was it like to go through that time period when things kind of exploded with electronics, with, high quality rods, reels, and, and really taking it from what it was to what it is today?
Well, when my early ice fishing, when I was really young, because I'm older than dirt right now, but our idea of ice fishing when I was young, and by the way, I didn't grow up, I just got older, but that's what my wife says anyway. But our idea of ice fishing was taking some minnows in a small bucket, hoping they wouldn't freeze, going out on the ice in some bunny boots we got from the Army surplus store, and other bad clothing that really wouldn't keep you warm, and cutting a hole in the ice, maybe with an axe or a hatchet or something, and then cutting a hole and putting a minnow on it and sitting by on a pail, never knowing if we were overfished. And if we really wanted to know the depth, we either could put a tape measure down if it wasn't too deep, or we had to lower a lead weight on a string, but we still never really knew if there were fish and how they were reacting. And so we did it, but we did it begrudgingly and not as much. And then a group of guys came along, and myself and Greg Claudio, and there was just a number of great guys. I could mention their names over and over that were just the pioneers. And all of a sudden somebody said, you know, we use these flashers in the summer now that we never use when we go on the ice. And so we took and adapted those so we could have electronics. So not only could we see if there was fish, but we could actually see how they were responding to our presentation. And then came portable shelters. You know, before that, if we wanted to be in a shelter, we had these big shacks you pulled out with a truck, and the fish just never could seem to find those shacks. So, but with portable shacks, we could move around and look for the fish. And it just changed our whole approach. We started putting groups together and going out to lakes and cutting a number of holes. You know, augers started getting better. And we were cutting holes and marking depths and then understanding kind of where we were in the lake, because we marked those spots on our boats. And then we could go and we could actually put a presentation down and watch what the fish were doing. And you talked about the ice rods. The first rods we had that were any good were the rods we broke during the summer, that we cut the blanks down and made ice fishing rods out of them because they'd fish in the shelters. But you look at where we've come now with the advances in sonar, mapping, ice fishing rods, reels. I mean, the ice fishing people today have such incredible equipment and advantages.
They have. You know what is interesting? I mean, in the old days, looking for flats on Mille Lacs, you used to light up the white house in a pink tree or whatever, or look for bubbles up in the ice to know you're over a flat out in the middle of the lake. But I mean, things have changed. Hey, you moved from Minnesota to Denver. I'm not sure how long ago, but tell me about the fisheries in your new backyard. I mean, where are you fishing? What are some of the lakes that are dynamite? What are some of the species that you're actually chasing?
Well, one of the great things in Colorado where I live is that we have such changes in elevation. So like I could have been ice fishing this weekend in the high country and had my boat on open water not very far from my house. As we progress through the winter, some of our front range lakes will freeze. We'll get a couple months of ice fishing there. But then if we go up in elevation, we actually have a longer ice fishing season than you do up in the ice fishing belt. So it's already freezing some lakes, and we'll go into May with the ice on the lakes, and the upper lakes and the big ones that are fishable. As far as species, people don't understand that trout are the number one species in Colorado. And of course, lake trout and pike are big here through the ice. But we also have almost all the warm water species down in the lower elevations. We have the panfish. We have a great walleye fisheries. We have great bass fisheries. We have white bass. We have wipers. So we have a variety. But one of the things I really learned moving out here, fishing natural lakes with little fluctuation in water level. I mean, let's face it, Steve, in Minnesota, if the water changes a foot, everybody's in a panic, right? Because now the weed line's in a different place to break. Sometimes I fish reservoirs that are 10 or 20 feet deeper or shallower than they were when I was there just a few weeks ago. I mean, so you're fishing new lakes all the time. And then the difference between trout being number one, and they stock them on the front range too, was that I talked about how we used to go and locate fish with our electronics, and we'd know and see them reacting. And this is a good lesson with forward facing sonar, is because trout tend to be cruisers, the rainbows and the browns. So they're cruising a lot, and they're very shallow early in the year, and you almost can't see them on your electronics because you're fishing so shallow, and they're moving. And if you were trying to follow them with forward-facing sonar early in the season, you'd see them, but they'd be gone before you could ever go drill a hole there. Now, later on in the year, they'll move deeper as the oxygen and the food changes. Then, and that comes more into play. But it comes down to knowing and understanding where those fish travel, and then using reaction style baits and baits that would tend to maybe lure them in to try to get them in, and maybe using different things to trigger bites. So I had a hard learning curve when I first came out here and started fishing trout compared to setting over a school of crappies or a ledge that had walleyes that I fished early and late.
Yeah, it's fun. And there's a question on there. Do you prefer Colorado or Minnesota for fishing?
Well, it depends on what fishing I'm doing. They both have really great fishing. My heart still is back in Minnesota, especially the open water season. Ice fishing, at times, I think I actually sometimes prefer Colorado. We'll get cold and freezing and get really good ice, but then we'll get 40-degree days with sun, and you can ice fish in a windbreaker.
I can appreciate that. I have learned that there is some phenomenal fishing. And I think a great thing that early this season right now, I mean, ice fishing season has not started for most people. I do have a couple lakes within a half hour that are safe ice right now where I could fish. But everybody, this is the year. If you've ever dreamed about going on a big trip, a Lake of the Woods or Winnipeg or Green Bay or Devil's Lake or whatever, make a commitment right now tonight to say, I'm going to do it this year. I'm going to do what I've been wanting to do this year. And I'm going to call my friend. I'm going to call my brother. My wife's going to go get out and go fishing. Hey, Terry, tell us a little bit about your radio show that I'm going to have to let you go.
All right. Well, the radio show is every Saturday morning. We air on 104.3 The Fan in Denver most of the time. We also air on ESPN, especially if there's a football game conflict, then we'll get switched solely to ESPN. It's on Mountain Time, 9 to 11 every Saturday. We're our 27th year of the radio show.
Wow.
And we cover we cover nationally, and we cover trips, but mostly we cover the Mountain States fishing area and hunting. We cover hunting, fishing, camping. And then, of course, I did 22 seasons of television, and you can find the legacy shows on my YouTube channel, The Best of Fishing with Terry Wickstrom. And so we've got a lot going on, been in the outdoors a while, but it's been the one constant in my life, and it's brought me so much pleasure.
Oh, it's phenomenal. What a phenomenal career. And thank you for your time tonight. And really appreciate your insights.
All right. And if you behave yourself, you can go back on my show in a little while again.
All right. Hey, thanks so much. Terry Wickstrom, everybody. Wow. 27 years on radio. That's incredible. And knowing how much that the fishing business has changed, it's incredible. So, hey, we've got almost 400 comments there, young man. I've only seen like 10 up there. I mean, you need to start scrolling more of those things coming up. But hey, everybody, thanks for joining us. We've got we're not done yet. We've got some other great things, but in about 10, 15 minutes, we're gonna announce 3 winners or qualifiers for the Garmin LiveScope Plus system and give away some other great prizes. So there. Hey, our next guest is Dr. Liz Colston. She is, I believe, Vice President still of Women Anglers of Minnesota. Is that still correct?
That is correct.
That's awesome. Hey, tell me, one of the things that I know Michelle Morey real well, president of WAM, but one of the things that really shocked me was that WAM, grew over the years. And then all of a sudden, when you guys embraced ice fishing, all of a sudden your membership grew rapidly. What is it? And I'm going to ask you as a woman, what is it about ice fishing that is so attractive to a lot of women anglers?
Well, ice fishing is really approachable. Not only in just that you can get out on the ice a lot more easily than you can on a boat, but it's also kind of affordable. You don't have to have super expensive tools to go out and really be successful. It's a lot easier to go to the lake, walk out. You can walk out on the ice. You can buy a hand auger. Hand auger is not very expensive. It's not very scary to use. You can have a simple rod, simple tools, learning basic fishing techniques, and you can go out and you can catch really nice fish. It doesn't hurt that you have a lot of women organizations like Women Anglers of Minnesota out there, really supporting women getting out there. helping them to learn how to fish, and we really support each other. We, cheer each other on the ice. So, I think that there's more opportunities for women just in the fishing industry and the fishing community as a whole. So I think not only just for us getting out, and it's just, again, a lot easier, but also just the support of women and the support of other women getting the women out there on the ice. So I know I personally have seen a lot of women, more women, even at the shows, just looking at products and just being a presence in the industry.
ASA, American Sport Fishing Association, the trade association for the fishing industry, it does a study. And 10 years ago, there was 16 million women fishing across the country, and now there's 20 million. So in 10 short years, the number of women anglers has grown by 4 million, which is really impressive. And I think a lot of credit goes to groups like WHAM. So if someone's not familiar with WHAM, tell me a little bit more about, what is the organization? What are some of the events that you hold, and why would somebody want to join WHAM?
Okay, so Women Anglers of Minnesota, obviously I'm the vice president, so it is near and dear to my heart. We are above, we're first and foremost a nonprofit organization getting women and kids on the ice. So all of the money that we raise goes to that end. And we are really proud of ourselves. We donated $30,000 back to the fishing community last year in the form of fishing, all fishing organizations. We gave a lot back to MinFish, trying to really help with fishing policy and really giving back. We also have 26 events planned next year, 2 in-person tournaments, multiple virtual tournaments, a lot of education events. Actually, we just did a really fun meet and greet at the Shields Ice Fest yesterday. I did a virtual ice fishing in-person ice fishing 101, where we just went over some basic ice fishing techniques. And we have an in-person ice fishing one on Lake Osakis this winter. These are all free to our members with a $30 membership a year. There's a bunch of discounts that you get as being part of the membership. So it's really a steal. Not only that, but you get to be part of a really great group of 1,100 women, just a small group of ladies that really just enjoy fishing, and the education and the camaraderie that you have within the organization it's just really amazing. And I'm super blessed to be part of such an amazing organization.
It's fun too. Hey, I want to bring up something else as well. You're an MD, correct? A surgeon, or what? You are a surgeon.
I'm a general surgeon.
Our general surgeon. What's your favorite surgery?
I like them all, but I really like doing belly button hernias. They're super fun to do.
Wow, I hope I never meet you in that situation. But talk to me a little bit about Chad. Are you interested in that surgery?
No. I know I don't want to get in a knot tying contest with Liz, though. My goodness.
I am kind of good at tying knots, as it turns out.
I would imagine.
And cleaning fish. It's kind of my thing.
And cleaning fish, yeah.
Yeah, that's odd. I bet you're good at that too. Hey, talk to me a little bit about if somebody is having issues with cold hands, what do they need to keep in mind in terms of blood flow and things that can help people keep warm hands on the ice?
Okay, this is basically my biggest tip and trick. This is my biggest trick for ice fishing, because my hands are super important to me, so they must stay warm. And this is all fishing and all staying warm on the ice. You have arteries that feed your wrists. So you want your fingertips to stay warm. You actually want to keep them warm by feeding the arteries. The arteries run on this side of your wrist, not this side of your wrist. So you want to wear the little warm hot hands, you want to put them on this part of your artery or this part of your wrist, so that the warmth stays on the arteries, and then the artery and the arterial blood will then feed your fingertips. And that will actually keep your hand warm in probably down to 10 to 15 degrees, almost without gloves. So that's no gloves on your fingers. That's just keeping a wristband with a hot hands in it. Hot hands does make a little device to hold it, but you can buy like a sweatband that has a zipper that will also hold it. The one issue is it gets a little bulky on your wrist, but it works pretty well. I wear them 100% of the time in the fall. I wear them in the winter. And if you have Raynaud's syndrome, so if your fingers get really cold, a lot of people have that, they get white. It's very, very helpful. And I tell this to all my ladies, if your hands are warm and your feet are warm, you're going to stay out. And that is very, very important for not just ice fishing, but also for fall fishing in the boat. That is when I use this the most often, because I don't like to wear gloves because my hands get wet. And so I really wear this a lot fishing in the boat.
It's interesting. A lot of the glove companies will put those hand warmer pockets on the top of it, which is actually the wrong place. They'll maybe put them on the fingers and things. But yeah, it was 21 here today, and wind was blowing, and I needed good gloves today. It was pretty brutal out there with the wind. So if somebody wants to join WHAM, Liz, how do they get a hold of you? How do they find out more information?
So the website's right there, womenanglersminnesota.com. There's a link right at the top of the page. It says join us. And like I said, the membership is $30. We have a youth membership that's $15. And we just came out with a really exciting new family membership. So that's an adult plus family members. That's a little bit more expensive, but it comes with up to 4 family members. We're really trying to expand our youth membership this year because the youth are our future. And so we're really excited about that. So
if anybody's looking for a great Christmas idea for the woman in your life who loves to fish, join WHAM. And Liz, I know you guys know all about the mint fish auction coming up. So that we appreciate WHAM's support of that on the mint fish side of things. So, hey, thank you so much for your time tonight. Really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on board, and have a great fishing season.
Thanks. Thank you so much for having me. Really, really appreciate it. We appreciate all of your support. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Liz.
Chad.
Hey,
I bet you never thought to put it right there on your wrist, did you?
Well, no, and it makes sense. It turns your hand into like a hot water boiler heating system, right? It just circulates the. That's awesome. I got to type, Steve, if I want to get these names on the board here. You
haven't done that yet?
Well, I've been working on it.
You've been working on it.
Yeah.
We've got about 2.5 minutes left of the show. I want to thank everybody for coming on board. We've had almost 550 comments, and that is phenomenal response. I'm hoping Danny is available next week, so Chad can focus on the production side of things in addition to some of the hosting. So I'd like to say thanks. And we made a comment earlier tonight. Ice fishing's starting. It's going to be a great season this year. We're going to have a lot of available ice this year. We're going to go out. We got some great products out there. But make the commitment to go and do the trips that you've always dreamed about doing and get out and have some fun. Especially this winter. So, Chad, have you got some names that we can look at yet?
I do. Hold on. I'm just going to type real quick here. One more. So for the LiveScope qualifiers, we've got 3 LiveScope qualifiers tonight, and here they are. Oh, see, that's what happens when you type fast. Ashlyn Barthorpe, Wesley Addison, and Amber Hamburger. And by the way, Steve, this is unofficial. But as far as I'm concerned, in the seasons we've been doing this, Amber has set a record tonight for comments. She was all over the comment board tonight, and really good stuff. So thank you, Amber. So these 3 have qualified for the LiveScope. Okay.
And just to make sure everybody's aware that we're going to give that away the end of December, so week 6. So we're going to qualify three viewers every week, and then at the end of the year, we're gonna pull a name out of a hat and award that LiveScope. So who's for the Razr auger? We got Jeremiah Johnson and Lynn Lifeson. Am I pronouncing it? Yeah. Congratulations to both of you. We're going to give one away next week, so we'll have you get a choice between an 8-inch or a 6-inch, and I think it's the Synthetic Ultra. Which is a great, and Nick Cox is actually going to be on from Razr, so we can talk about that. Wow, Fish Monkey socks. Tracy, please direct message me with your shipping address and your sock size, and we'll get those out. And we have a Berkeley winner.
The Berkeley tackle, Chris Keller. And guess what? He's a Montana neighbor, according to one of his posts in there. He lives out by you, Steve. So
Oh,
he
is
can
that
just
right?
drive
Wow.
over and get the Berkeley baits.
Maybe. Well, congratulations, Chris. And if you guys haven't tried any of the new baits, I can tell you that finisher last year was just phenomenal for me. Open water especially, but also through the ice. And it's actually a dynamite big trout bait. I had some brown trout up into that 23, 24 inch range on that last winter. So, hey, we ran out of time. Everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. We'll be back next Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Time right here. And everybody have a great week. Have a great holiday. We'll see you next Sunday night.
Happy holidays, everyone.